Under Nevada Rules of Civil Procedure 60D, Section 3, fraud on the court is distinct from standard perjury. It occurs when structural misconduct compromises the impartial nature of the judicial machinery, coercing or influencing the court so deeply that the system cannot function. We can observe the mechanics of this failure by examining a specific 2022 pro se motion for an order to show cause, filed in the case of Tobin v. Red Rock Financial Services. At the center of this dispute is an allegation that multiple law firms coordinated to bypass judicial scrutiny of a defective non-judicial homeowners association foreclosure. We are going to deconstruct the mechanics of this alleged legal subversion, mapping exactly how strict statutory breaches in HOA governance were insulated by a coordinated matrix of ethical violations. A compromised judicial mechanism prevents the merits of a quiet title claim from ever being heard. This shifts the outcome of the dispute away from the facts of the case and into the control of procedural maneuvering. Nevada's NRS 116 establishes a strict legal baseline for HOA governance. It places absolute limits on an HOA board's authority to levy assessments and enforce collections. This architectural flowchart outlines those strict boundaries. On the left, we see the legal requirements of NRS 116 and Sun City Anthem Bylaw 3.20, which prohibits the delegation of policymaking or enforcement without strict due process. On the right, we have the collection actions executed by a third-party debt collector, Red Rock Financial Services. The fiduciary duty fails mechanically when the HOA board allows a third party to execute enforcement. Here, the Sun City Anthem Board allegedly permitted Red Rock to impose the ultimate sanction on a homeowner, foreclosure. By delegating this authority, the process bypassed the exact statutory protections designed to prevent abuse. The homeowner received no mandatory notice of violation, no opportunity to correct the delinquency, and no hearing, all requirements of NRS 116.31031. This bar chart compares the financial discrepancy of the resulting transfer. Red Rock allegedly sold the property covertly for $63,100, ignoring a towering rejected auction bid of $367,500. Following this covert sale, Red Rock retained the excess proceeds, holding the funds in an unaudited trust account rather than remitting them to the court. Retaining those funds without distribution is a violation of the statutory mandates laid out in NRS 116.31164-3C. When an HOA outsources enforcement outside of these strict statutory boundaries, the resulting property transfer is invalid. It is an unauthorized ultra-virus act. To protect an ultra-virus sale from a quiet title challenge, the underlying discovery records must be structurally sanitized. Concealing evidence violates professional obligations, specifically Nevada Rules of Professional Conduct 3.3, Candor toward the tribunal, and 3.4, Fairness to opposing party. The first specific allegation of discovery tampering involves the timeline. Red Rock's counsel allegedly scrubbed dates from payoff requests to obscure when the homeowner attempted to settle the debt. Next, internal board approvals were omitted. The records concealed a $400 fee waiver, hiding the true balance that was actually owed. This document simulation shows the most critical omission from discovery. Sequentially numbered pages 1335 through 1337 of the resident transaction report glow red and are completely withheld from the record. Hiding these specific pages served a distinct legal utility. It concealed an evidentiary gap. The HOA possessed no internal ledger entry confirming that the $63,100 was ever actually collected from the sale. This omission simultaneously masked the true chain of title leading to the second buyer, an entity named Jimmy Jack. By presenting this unverified, incomplete file to the judge, the attorneys engineered a meritless summary judgment. They cemented a false law of the case, built entirely on evidentiary voids. Beyond the HOA's actions, the primary mortgage servicer, NationStar, faced its own legal hurdle. In a quiet title dispute, a party must prove strict legal standing to assert a claim over the property. This cascading vertical timeline maps the dates of NationStar and Bank of America assignments. The servicer allegedly executed a chain of mathematically impossible assignments to fabricate standing on a deed of trust that was already extinguished back in 2014. To prop up this chain of title, the servicer relied on self-assignments, executing transfers of interest to themselves without legal authority. Once the initial fraud was challenged, they deployed a strategy of post-discovery rescissions, attempting to alter their standing retroactively by pulling prior assignments out of the timeline. Shifting claims in this manner violates the doctrine of judicial estoppel, which prohibits parties from presenting conflicting, mutually exclusive facts to the court. Weaponizing procedural rescissions and void assignments creates an intentional smokescreen. It makes it impossible for the court to identify the true beneficiary of the extinguished deed. The procedural climax of this dispute centers on the tactical maneuvering surrounding a court hearing scheduled for April 23, 2019. Both the Nevada Rules of Professional Conduct and the American Bar Association standards strictly prohibit ex parte communications, meetings between counsel and the judge where the opposing party is not present. The tactical deception began when opposing counsels allegedly served electronic notice to the plaintiff that the hearing was continued. With the plaintiff intentionally misdirected, opposing counsels proceeded to secretly meet with the judge in her complete absence. Without the plaintiff there to object, opposing counsels misrepresented her individual legal standing to the court. The result of the hearing was the striking of the plaintiff's 600-page evidentiary motion. The court never reviewed the contents of the filing. With the plaintiff sidelined, NationStar and Jimmy Jack recorded a side settlement intended to resolve their competing claims to the title. This transactional flow diagram illustrates the mechanics of the agreement. NationStar reconveyed the void deed to a non-party in exchange for a payment of $355,000. This maneuver provided a strategic benefit to both corporate entities. It allowed them to dismiss their claims entirely and evade producing title evidence at the impending quiet title trial. By combining an ex parte exclusion with an exclusionary side settlement, opposing counsels successfully stripped the adverse party of their standing. They completely insulated the defective title from any trial on the merits. This network map displays the scale of the systemic failure, interconnecting the HOA, debt collector, banks, and legal counsels. The architecture of the fraud relies on combining statutory HOA overreach with engineered evidentiary voids and exclusionary maneuvers that collapse the pathways to justice. The court's imprimatur is weaponized by bad actors to collect an unowed debt and ratify a legally defective title. The final hurdle to accountability lies with the State Bar of Nevada. The bar imposes an ad hoc prerequisite, requiring a victim to secure a prior judicial finding of attorney misconduct before it will initiate an ethics investigation. Because the misconduct involved concealing evidence, the judge required to make the finding never saw the material necessary to initiate the investigation. When attorney conduct successfully prevents a court from reviewing evidence, the bar's requirement for a judicial finding acts as a barrier to oversight rather than a path toward it.